Hello, mixtresses and mixters. This is mixtressrae. You're watching mixtress video. Sorry, I'm doing a little handheld cam moment. So I just got a Thoth deck. This is like fully probably the 5th Thoth deck that's passed through my hands in my life. It was like the only tarot deck I had when I first started this channel, and I didn't understand it at all. And I've just, over the course of my tarot learning life, I have mostly gotten angry at the Thoth deck because of all the arcane, esoteric symbolism that feels like, and I'm trying to study it right now, but like everything I look up, because I had to order a book because there's no bookstore in my town that has a Thoth guidebook. So I had to order a book and I have to wait for it to get here to sort of like, study it in a book learning kind of way. But I've been looking up like videos on YouTube and none of them are helpful so far, because all of them are just sort of like, well, it's going to be a lifetime of study. And then they start going on these weird rants that make no sense to me because of all the esoteric language and stuff. So the first thing I needed to wrap my head around, and I want to share it with you guys in case you're in the same space as me, of like you're kind of interested in Thoth, but it makes you angry at the same time because it's like everybody's telling you that, it's going to take a lifetime to understand this motherfucking deck. And just like somebody tells me something like that, I'm like, okay, well, then fuck it. If it wants to like, create all these barriers and keep me from understanding it, then I don't want to understand it. Then fuck you. But I'm pushing past that thought for the moment because I want to understand it in my own way. So here's what the first thing that I needed to know is what's up with the fucking court cards, because here you have knights. So the order that is like listed in the little white book is that it goes from knight to queen to prince to princess. So I was like, okay, I need to know what these elemental associations are, because that's how I think of the court cards anyway. Pages are earth, knights are air, queens are water, and kings are fire. That is the way that I associate it in the RWS system. But I actually, now that I know what's going on with the court cards in Thoth, I actually understand the Thoth layout of the court cards better, because the way that I order the minor arcana, just for me personally, I always go from wands fire to cups water to swords air, and then pentacles earth. That's the way that the elemental hierarchy makes sense to me. Or not hierarchy, but just the order. It blazes in with fire, then then the emotions of water, then the intellect of air, and then you're grounded in everything in earth at the end. That's the way that I think of it, and that's the way that the court cards are ordered, the way that they're supposed to be ordered in the Thoth deck. So it goes like the difference, basically, the queens are still queens, the knights are still knights, and the princesses are still pages or princesses if you think of them that way. The princes are the kings. So the hierarchy goes, the knights represent fire. They blaze in and start the suit of the court cards. And then we get water with the queens. And then the prince is the king. They're all on these chariots. So I don't know what the deal is with the princes / kings being on chariots. And some people, I think, argue that the knights are supposed to be the kings. But that just, that just messes with my brain too much. I can't with that. So the princes are the kings. And that makes sense as far as the astrological associations, because the king of pentacles is typically Taurus. So we have the bull here. I don't know enough about like all the symbolism on, I don't know anything about Thoth yet. This is just my very first. So the princes / kings in this deck are air, which actually makes more sense that the kings would be air, because they just sort of sit on their thrones and think about shit, right? They're not really doing much of anything. They're just sort of like, they think they know everything. The kings think they know everything, which makes sense that they would be air. They're not like men of action typically. In this deck, they might be more men of action since they're all on these chariots, but anyway, whatever. And then the princesses I kind of like that, like them being earth, which the pages always are, and the pages are most related to the aces, you know, it's kind of like the end is the beginning. So it makes sense to put them at the end. I'm always like trying to reorganize the way that I think about court cards. I'm a very, like, most of my planets are in my first house. So I'm a very identity driven person. So wrapping my head around the court cards is kind of my entry point into the Thoth deck. And the fact that I kind of like how it's laid out makes sense to me. So in case you were wondering what the fuck is up with the court cards, here it is. Knights are still knights, but they're fire, not air. Queens are still queens, and they're still water. Princes are kings, and they are air instead of fire. And then princesses are pages, and they are still earth. Like, for me, that is the way that I needed to understand it. So in case that's a way that makes you understand it better, I offer it to the collective. Thank you. Goodbye. This is all I know about Thoth so far. So that's all I got. Okay, bye.